question was, how did you remain resilient through the years of the Holocaust?
How did I what?
Remain resilient through the years of the Holocaust, and what does it
I'm not sure what you mean, but how I remained.
So like, how did you maintain like your strength and your courage to continue going on?
I'm really not certain that I understood.
So, how did you not give up while you were going through the camps and everything?
Or are you talking about then, or?
Yes.
Remember I mentioned in class to you that kids have a different perspective, and I think that's all part of it. So it wasn't, not, maybe I'm repeating myself, but it wasn't a matter of giving up. It was a matter of that I thought, and I sort of blame it being a kid, but I thought that I was so sure that I was going to survive that the thought about giving up really never came into it. It was not I don't know if that sounds right, but like giving up was not an option. Does it? I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, but I think it's because my attitude was so different, maybe being a little naive, but not understanding what my situation really was. I just thought I would survive, So I think that that kind of thought was not correct, but it must have seemed correct to me then.
Also, I know in class that you mentioned you're not a very religious person.
Right.
But did religion play any sort of role in how you perceived the Holocaust?
Again, I have to talk about it then or now, or then or after the war.
While you were there.
While I was in the camps. Okay. Maybe the best way to do it is explain to you what my background was. I came from a family that was not particularly religious, and so religion really didn't play a big part in my life during that period. As opposed to many other people whom I was either with them or witnessed at least some of the other people to whom religion played a major role, and I think they used it as an aid to stay ahead of ahead of trouble, and they probably received great joy out of being able to hang on to something that was ingrained in them from long before the trouble started. Okay, in my case, I was with these other 5 boys. There were 6 of us, and all of us came from pretty much the same kind of a background, and so religion really never played a major role. Okay, it was there in the periphery, but played a very small role. I would practically say it played no role, but that probably isn't true either.
What about after the war then?
Yeah, has that changed at all?
No, after the war, I was the situation was such that either the people I was with or the situation that I was put into didn't make any demands on me in regard to anything.
Right.
I don't mean just religion now, but
Right.
to go one way or the other. I received actually very little advice,
Right.
and so that whatever decisions I made were based on that very short period. Let's say from age, I don't know, maybe 6 on, age of 6, from age of 6 to maybe 10. So these 4 years kind of formulated what I'm going to do, and I think that's exactly what happened.
Right, right.
So you keep bringing up the 6 of you, the 6 boys
Mhm.
that you were with. What kind of relationships were formed between you and the other 6 boys? Or the
Well,
other
don't
5
forget,
boys?
when we went in, well, we had, it was very important for everyone to make some connection. And I think that as kids, we were not treated very nicely by the adult prisoners. And so we, without talking it out, but we soon realized that we cannot rely on them, that we need to rely on ourselves. And I think that's what made these 6 boys behave so closely together. You know, we assisted one another wherever we could. We didn't have families with us who were all, everybody was alone, and so that the other boys became sort of like a pseudo family. You know, they became our, you know, we spoke the same language, we came from the same country, at least in our case. We had the same, we were about the same age, you know, so our lives were disrupted about the same time, and a lot of reasons why the fit was so perfect in a way. Okay.
Oh. I don't know.
Keep going.
Yeah, go for it.
This is going back to when you mentioned children being deemed as innocent-minded tend to don't dwell on the possibility of death, but rather seem to be eternally optimistic of their survival. Was there any point at all during the camps where you doubted your survival in the slightest bit?
I'm sure we did. But it's interesting to, just as a maybe sideline, I'm not really directly part of your question, but that we were able to accept both scenarios. One being that we'll survive, the other one being that we won't survive. You know, and we saw a lot of brutality being dispensed, if you will, in the camp. And I think when we realized that, you know, today it's this guy next to me, he's the one that got beaten up or shot or whatever, and tomorrow's my turn. And we came to a point where we actually accepted it. We accepted the fact that tomorrow will be my turn, without really giving it any sort of remorseful thinking. You know, just that's what's going to happen. I think that was part of what we were exposed to, and we simply accepted it. But we accepted both. On one hand, we said, that's not going to happen to me, I'll survive. We talked about that. And on the other hand, we said, no, my fate is going to run out tomorrow, you know. And we accepted both points of view, if you will. And I think it was just a matter of fact rather than any big discussion about, you know, which way this is going to go. We said could be either, and we accepted both.
Alright, so when did that relationship with your 5 other friends, when did that actually, like, come together, I guess?
Okay, there were several reasons why this happened.
Excuse me,
why this took
if
place.
she's being a pest, I can lock her out.
She doesn't think she's the best.
Well, I didn't ask for her opinion, I was asking for others.
No, so far she's good.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
alright.
She's in the shot. She's cute.
Yeah, well, she doesn't miss an opportunity to be with people.
She's famous. No.
Well, I need to explain a little bit of the background to you, and it'll kind of flow in.
Alright,
Number one, we met, if you will, maybe not meeting, like, personally meeting, but we were all in the first camp together.
right.
That's called Terezin. Some of us lived in the same dormitory, and so that's the other common ground, if you will. Okay. Thirdly, all of us were from Czechoslovakia, so we had the language commonality, we had similar background commonality, and so on. Okay. The next thing that happened to us, and we didn't think of it on the way, but we were all shipped to Birkenau, and we either arrived in the fall of '43 or in the spring of '44. That's the only people that were left in the camp, in that section of the camp. The rest of the people were either they were annihilated, or the gas chambers, they were maybe sent to other camps, whatever. But that, again, that was a group of people, so we were in the same, not the same barrack, but in the same camp, okay? Thirdly, and maybe most important, we were all part of these 89 boys picked by Mengele. Okay, so again, the group is, there were 500 boys, about 500 boys of that age to start with, from which Mengele chose the 89, but the group got smaller and smaller and smaller, so eventually we were part of the 89. The next thing that happened, and that separated us from the 89. The 89 were sent from the Terezin camp to the Birkenau men's camp, but the next thing that happened is the 5 of us, or 6 of us, were picked again by Mengele, and we wound up in this other camp called Fürstengrube. Okay, and from that point, there were 6.
Right.
Okay, but our background was put together from these various elements. What is that?
Long distance.
And what solidified it, we then became 6 different kids who were sent away to this one camp. And from that point on, we traveled together. So that we're from 89 to 6, and then from that point on, which was probably late summer of '44, we stayed together until we were liberated in Bergen-Belsen. Okay?
Speaking of the 89 boys, do you think that what do you think the significance was of being one of the 89? Did that mean anything special to you?
At the time that it occurred?
Yeah, at the time.
No. We had we didn't attach any significance to it, except, the major one is that if there were 500 boys that were that age of which Mengele chose 89, the 411 that weren't chosen were gassed and destroyed. So, partly from that point of view, it gave us an unexpected lease on life. That's significant, obviously, but it wasn't. We didn't know it at the time that it took place.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, one more.
Great. Do you have any positive memories from your time in the camps?
Positive.
I know you celebrated your bar mitzvah. Was that a positive memory for you?
Yes, I suppose that's one of the things that I could call positive. But really, there weren't any positives, if you will. I think that it was an accelerated growing up period. I mean, you know, I think that I was 15 when I was liberated, but I always thought that, do they still use a term called street smart? Is that still used?
Yeah.
Okay, you know, I was 15 chronologically, but I was probably 21 street smart, if I can use that.
Right.
So, you know, I learned things at the age of 14 and 15 way beyond what you would normally learn at 14, 15. And one big thing I learned is that the adults around us could not be trusted, which surprised us. We were, all of us, all the boys, thought the same thing. We didn't understand how the adults didn't look at us as kids and help us out. Instead, they were pretty mean to us, you know. And of course, I didn't really understand any of it until long after I came back. Then I realized it's just how people react. That self-preservation is such a major feeling that people will do anything, practically anything, in regard to self-preservation. And that they didn't, you know, they looked at us as being young boys who could be exploited, or who had a piece of bread that I want, or who had something that I want. And, you know, if we didn't sleep with our shoes, they stole our shoes. I mean, you know, but I didn't analyze it, if you will, at least at that point. I'm sure there were some positive things, but I really can't think of any that I would like to, you know, or that I could share with you. But I suppose there were some, yeah.
So you obviously spent a lot of time now talking about this experience.
Not
and
really.
You wrote the book and
Yeah. No, I didn't start speaking about it until, what is that, now 15, maybe 25 years. Up to that point, let's say 30 years to be fair. But up to that point, it was not taught in schools. It was not a popular topic. Nobody wanted to speak about it, and I think the reason for it may have been that there was a lot of guilt going around. You know, through a family, through friends of my family, I had the opportunity to come to the United States in 1946, and these people lived in Pittsburgh, and they applied to the State Department that they would be my guardian, and I would not become a burden to the state and so on. And I could not get an immigration visa. I did get a visa assigned, or a number assigned, but the number, and this is in 1946, the number would not have been due to quotas from different countries. My country's quota, in my case, my number would not have been due until 1954. It was like an 8-year wait. Now, you know, you look at the discussions we have today about immigration, they're so different that I have a little bit of a tough time putting my head around it. You know, have we really changed that much?
Right.
You know, I wonder. I think we did, or we have, but I wonder. Benita? Benita? Benita! As to what our attitudes are today, as what they were then. And I don't know.
So, what drives you to talk about it now?
Well, and I don't want to sound like I'm patting my own back, but I think that it's sort of even if I can use a term like, it's an obligation that I think I have. And I am one of the few, or used to be one of the few people, at least in this area, one of the younger people, that were in the camps. And I think that the story needs to be told. You know, there's a lot of denial by many people, and I think that I need to stand up and say, no, wait a minute, it really did happen, and I'm not a product of it, but I'm a witness, if you will, okay? And so I think it's an obligation on my part to do it. And I don't know how I realized it. It happened over time. In the beginning, I was asked to go out and speak, and I said, no, I can't do it. But little by little, I think I saw the reception that I received, and I realized how important it is. And I've been doing it. I did it lived in Buffalo, and I've been doing it since we moved to Rochester about 17 years now. So I've been doing it ever since, and I find it important because of the perceived notion as to what really happened versus what people think happened. And I'll have to continue for a while at least, as long as I can do it.
Okay, so would you be willing to meet with us a second time?
Would I be what?
Willing to have?
Me too.
So, having gone through the Holocaust, do you see yourself as different from other people, or do you just see yourself as a normal, everyday person like the rest of us?
That's an interesting question because there are many Holocaust survivors who are very angry. You know, they feel, I think, I didn't talk to them about it, but they feel the world owes them. I don't. And I've always tried, ever since I'm married at least, I've tried to, I'll explain it maybe, to be like everybody else, to be sort of not stand out, not to be unique, not to be just to be like everybody else. It's the best way to put it. And I've worked at it very hard to the point where, and I think I mentioned it before, that my daughters, for example, I have two daughters, they knew very little about that life. My grandsons, or the next generation, don't know a lot more. And I think that's also because I think there was a certain amount of shame associated with it, and students in I'm not sure what grades, I would not like to comment on that, but students in schools weren't too willing to always say, oh yeah, my parents were born in wherever. Today, the opposite is practically true. And kids that are born in a different country, probably whose parents are born in a different country, when they go to school, they're kind of, yeah, what was it like? What did parents tell you? You know, there's a different, people have a different attitude. And I'm sure that, I never talked to my daughter about it, but I'm sure the same thing happened. So my daughters would not admit to it, not admit, but would not talk about it. And my grandsons, oh yeah, my grandfather's from Czechoslovakia. It's like a big deal, you know.
Mm-hmm.
a kind of interesting attitude change. But I think that that kind of falls in with the question that you asked about, when did you start talking about it in a way? I think because I talked about it, I encouraged them, and because they wanted to know more, that in a way they encouraged me. And so it worked both ways. And I don't know how long ago before Dr. Nowak came up with the, I don't know, still called Auschwitz and Beyond, your course?
Oh,
There's
there
a
is
few.
Or is it another course?
There is another course that has that title though.
Yeah.
Okay, but
There's a.
I bet until she did it,
Oscars.
it wasn't taught at Nazareth either.
Right.
So she took it upon herself, in a way, upon herself to do it. And she felt it's a morally important topic to look into and to talk about. I don't know.
Gotcha.
I know we kind of said that was the last question, but I have one more, and I don't want to forget it if that's
Oh,
okay.
no, go.
Do you think that your experience has made you like a more empathetic person? Do you think it's made it easier for you to relate to others? And
I'll say this without reservation, that it made me much more aware of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I would put in, what I would make part of it, does it make me more sympathetic towards certain causes? If I'm sympathetic to a cause, does it mean it's because of my background, or is that the way I would look at it anyways? And I don't know that. I don't have an answer for that. I would like to think that it did play. I don't know quite how, but I would like to think that it did play not just a minor role, but a rather major role. I just never analyzed it. I never really. I never try to break it down, so I have a difficulty answering you, yes or no. But I would think that it probably. Well, look, put it this way. I'm sure it influenced me. The question now is to what degree, right?
right.
Then I don't have an answer for it. But did it influence me? I'm sure. It influenced me the way I looked at my children. It influenced me the way I look at maybe politics.
Mm-hmm.
It influenced me the kind of work that I did, the kind of friends that I would pick or chose. So I'm sure it had a great, there was a great influence. I just don't quite know how to answer it, very directly.
Thank you. Okay.